Pixl Gun 3D has been downloaded hundreds of millions of times, but buried within the game's history are things most players never knew existed. From lost versions of the game, a deleted YouTube channel, and even a strange Pixl Gun spin-off nobody seems to know existed. And the deeper I looked into Pixl Gun's past, the more of its history seemed to disappear, and some of what I found may have only been downloaded a dozen times. Finding lost media is rarely easy, but in many cases the original developers can at least provide some information about their older projects. Unfortunately, Cubic Games is different. As I had mentioned in my last video, the Cubic Games team is notoriously secretive. They will not discuss or provide anything regarding past projects, regardless of how old they are. The suspiciously defensive nature of the team is no secret. So I decided to start the search by going through some old forums, discussing the game, some older update and weapon review videos, archived app pages to see if anything caught my eye, until I came across this YouTube video. Which is when I remembered something that only seasoned Pixl Gun players would remember. If you played Pixl Gun around mid-2013 to early 2014, unlike today's version where you can simply search and download the game, there were actually two versions of the app. Those two versions would be Pixl Gun Lite, which went under the package name com.p3d.pixlgun, and Pixl Gun Pro, going under the package name com.p3d.pixlgunpro, both without the E in Pixel. However, this is where things start to get pretty cloudy. For a brief period, the Lite version was the only available version of the app, which was priced at 99 cents, until around July or August of 2013. Which was when the Pro version of the app would be released, with it being priced at 99 cents and the Lite version becoming free, with both versions of the app being replaced by the com.pixel.gun3d version, which is what we have today. The only proof of these versions' existence consists of some older gameplay uploaded to YouTube, as well as 2013 internet archives of their Play Store page, with unfortunately no surviving archive of the com.pixelgun3d.pro official Play Store page, aside from this third-party site showcasing the app. Some of the earlier releases pre-version 2.7 remain lost to this day, and are believed to have some unseen versions of the campaign levels, like Cemetery, and The End, which had its name changed to Parallel World, and possibly an entirely different hospital level, which might be the origins of this unidentified enemy from the menu screen in versions 2.7 to 3.0. The search for earlier builds of the game are difficult due to how small the game was at the time, and it being locked behind a paywall. But that's only part of the challenge. Since there's little to nothing documented about the versions, it's hard for archivers to even know how much there is and what exactly they're missing. The fact that entire versions of the game seem to have vanished, it naturally raises the question of what else of the game's history potentially went missing. As I was researching this section, I scrolled through hundreds of pages of old Pixl Gun 3D content, but I stumbled across something completely unrelated to these missing versions, and something I vividly remember watching when I was younger. Like I mentioned, there are endless amounts of Pixl Gun content posted to YouTube alone. I mean, without the content creators, the game wouldn't have been nearly as big as it was in the early 2010s. The Pixl Gun content that's still available to this day consists of mostly select re-uploads and newer content about the game, with those uploads only being fragments of the channels and their extensive catalogs of content that once existed. Some of the re-uploads I was met with when searching for gameplay were from one of the biggest names in the early Pixl Gun 3D scene, and one of my childhood favorites, which was Los Gaming.
Oh, you grenade spamming. You want a grenade spam?
He was up there with the largest creators at the time, like Esoteric Inc, which we'll get into in a second, with multiple of his videos reaching over 1 million views. However, Los Gaming took a step back from the community in uploading videos as a whole in 2017, but still leaving most of his uploads as public, which was years before the subsequent retirement of similar content creators. It's not exactly known why, but 3 years after his departure from the scene, he'd go on to private most, if not all, of his videos, around April of 2020. Then just a year later, deleting his entire channel in October of 2021. But when I searched his name, only a handful of his videos actually appeared, meaning potentially over 100 videos of his are still missing to this day. It's hard to know exactly what videos of his are missing, because complete archives of his channel's videos didn't survive either, since by the time he deleted his channel, most of his videos had already been privated, and the chances of them ever being archived are extremely slim. And if you watched Los Gaming, it was impossible for you not to know Esoteric Inc. As I did with Los Gaming, I searched his YouTube for his videos, but it felt even more off. There was a channel named Eso with about 6,000 subscribers, nowhere near the hundreds of thousands he had once had, and upon looking at the channel, something felt off, compared to what I had remembered from my childhood. So I dug a bit more, until I eventually uncovered the truth about what happened to his channel and content. I came across a re-upload of a video of his that linked a channel, however the link was dead. Still, I had a bit of hope to find the channel, and its content we all remember so vividly. I pasted that now dead link into the Wayback Machine, as it endlessly buffered for a much longer time than before. The screen went white. I expected this to be the end of the search, with no results being found. Surprisingly, it actually returned some results, revealing that my recollection of his channel having hundreds of thousands of subscribers with hundreds of videos wasn't a false memory. After talking to some community members and watching content from his friends and fans discussing the situation, I realized that his channel faced something that didn't even cross my mind. With his channel being hacked in 2022 and being entirely rebranded, which is unfortunate, but it usually isn't the end, since YouTube support will typically help restore the channel. But unfortunately, the hacker didn't just private his videos. Many of them were permanently deleted. Hundreds of videos and years of Pixl Gun history potentially lost forever. Past archives of his channel show that he had roughly 900 total uploads, meaning the number of re-uploads I was faced with today barely even scratched the surface. Up until this point, the lost media has stayed within the game, with the exception of Pixl Gun 3D content creators and their lost channels. But like I mentioned at the beginning, if versions of the game and entire channels with hundreds of videos could be lost just like that, then the iceberg has to go deeper, right? In my last video where I discussed the past projects from Qubit Games, 2 games were mentioned that stood out. Games like Mine Run 3D, Lastcraft Survival, and Block City Wars were discontinued by the developers, but they weren't exactly lost media. There's tons of gameplay easily accessible on YouTube alone. And most importantly, the APK files are still accessible. But the 2 that stood out weren't only missing the gameplay or the APK, they were even missing archives of their Play Store pages. If this specific app's existence is confirmed, then it proves that the development of Pixl Gun content existed earlier than the commonly recognized 2013 release date. During my search, I came across this Reddit user claiming the game did exist before 2013, which completely contradicts the widely accepted 2013 release date. But instead of just a baseless claim, this user provided a screenshot with the title of the post reading, "Proof that Pixl Gun existed before 2013. This game appeared on the App Store on December 12th, 2012, got a small update, then disappeared 2 months before the Pixl Gun 3D we all know today was made. These are the only images I have. Everything is lost media. Yes, this is real." Followed by a screenshot from the app's iTunes page, and a third-party site documenting the release. I wanted to give this search a shot of my own. Maybe I could find a new lead, or even find some new information that wasn't known before about the app. I searched the app name on YouTube, Pixl Gun Augmented Reality, but there was no gameplay. For safe measure, I gave it another Google search. Also nothing. If there's nothing still publicly available on YouTube and not even a dead link when searching on Google, then it's basically a dead end. The chances of this app being archived and preserved for over 14 years are slim, but not exactly zero. In a final effort to find some sort of lead or new information, I put the links that were provided by the Reddit post into the Wayback Machine. It loaded and loaded. I got nothing. I gave it one final try. with the only other link that was provided. I waited and waited. I don't know what I was expecting at this point, but it wasn't this. Again, I was met with nothing. It seems that the only surviving references to this app come from a Reddit post and a third-party site. The fact that this app is over 14 years old and was behind a paywall makes the chances of ever finding the complete app nearly zero. I took one last look at the screenshot, and I realized that there were only 16 reviews of the app, 16 souls reaped. It's safe to say that we will most likely never find the complete version of this app, due to how few downloads it had, combined with the lack of cooperation from the Pixl Gun team. However, there's still one more title I came across when looking at the releases tied to the Alex Krasnov profile. This one was even more obscure than the Pixl Gun Augmented Reality app, so I asked around the community, but no one seemed to know what I was talking about. I started to feel like maybe this was a troll post or something, since it shared no similar characteristics to anything we've ever seen from the other releases of Qubit games. So I wanted to see if there was maybe an article or a third-party site at least documenting the app. So I went to Google simply searching the name, Bubble Duck Panic. The first result that was brought up was the Pixl Gun 3D fan wiki. So I clicked it, assuming the Pixl Gun fan wiki would have some sort of information on the game, but it was pretty much empty, with no new information about the game aside from the app icon and description. The only other search result I was met with was the exact same Touch Arcade profile I had originally noticed the game on. The next and final place to look would be the Internet Archive, but it was worth the try. Again, nothing. In a last-ditch effort, I searched YouTube to see if there was at least any gameplay of the app, or even someone else acknowledging its existence. Again, nothing. At this point, I was shocked, because every other topic leading up to this point has had a little bit of context, like the Pixl Gun Augmented Reality app. At the very least, there was other people who were aware of the game, but Bubble Duck Panic seems to just not exist. Not even a screenshot, or a link to the Play Store or iTunes page. I decided to give the name one last Google search, and scroll past the first few unrelated initial results, which is when I came across this link, Bubble Panic Alternatives. It was missing the duck part, but I gave it a chance anyways. This is when I was faced with the unfortunate reality of this search. The app description and name on the site was nothing new. But this third-party site claims the app only had 12 lifetime downloads. Not 12 ratings, but only 12 downloads. Similar to the 2012 Pixl Gun app, the extremely small player and install count basically puts an end to any chance of recovering content from these apps. The truth is, Pixl Gun 3D and the company's past projects aren't just a rare case of lost mobile game media. Early mobile games simply weren't documented very well at all, and even the small amount that were rarely has any complete surviving archives today. And even when people attempted to preserve media like we saw in the case of Esoteric Inc's channel, huge portions of that history still managed to vanish. At this point, finding any new information or media about the cases we covered are becoming slimmer and slimmer every year. And these versions, videos, and apps may remain nothing more than faint childhood memories. But the journey doesn't have to end here. And like many of y'all, I hope it doesn't, which is why I encourage everyone to comment some of their favorite memories from the game or anything you remember about the cases discussed in this video, because your comment might just be the spark that helps bring a lost piece of Pixl Gun history back to light. If a game that's been downloaded hundreds of millions of times can lose parts of its own history, imagine how many other memories from the early days of mobile games have simply vanished. I want to give a huge thank you to Zurons for providing exclusive information and helping me verify the claims regarding the lost earlier versions of the game. I'll link his YouTube and Discord in the description of this video. Go check him out and show him some love. He's truly awesome. He's extremely passionate about this game, which I respect. If you enjoy high quality deep dive videos just like this, then do hit that subscribe button, because we're on track to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of this year. So this is your chance to claim your OG ticket. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Alright, goodbye.